If the reports coming out of Abuja are anything to go by, Nigeria's political landscape may be heading for another major shakeup ahead of the next general election. A federal high court has reportedly ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to deregister the African Democratic Congress (ADC), alongside 4 other political parties over alleged failure to meet constitutional requirements for continued registration. The development has immediately sparked reactions across the political space because of what it could mean for opposition politics, coalition efforts, and the ambitions of some of Nigeria's biggest political figures. For many Nigerians, the biggest question right now is simple. What exactly happened, and how could this affect politicians such as Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and others who have been linked with opposition realignments ahead of future elections? That is exactly what we are breaking down in this video, separating the facts from the speculation and helping you understand why this court ruling is attracting so much attention across the country. Before we continue, if you enjoy balanced political updates explained in simple language, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. Your support helps us keep bringing you important developments from across Nigeria. Also, drop a comment and tell us your first reaction to this court decision. According to reports, Justice Peter Lifu of the Federal High Court in Abuja ordered INEC to deregister 5 political parties. The affected parties reportedly include the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Accord Party, Action Alliance, Action People's Party, and Zenith Labour Party. The judgment followed a legal challenge filed by a group known as the National Forum of Former Legislators, which argued that the parties failed to satisfy constitutional requirements relating to electoral performance. The court reportedly agreed with the arguments presented and directed INEC to remove the affected parties from its register. Reports also indicate that the court held that the parties did not meet the required electoral thresholds set out in the Constitution. Now, this is where things become particularly important. The ADC has in recent months attracted significant attention because of efforts by various opposition figures to use the party as a platform for broader political cooperation. Several prominent politicians have been associated with discussions around coalition politics, making the party far more visible than it had been in previous election cycles. Because of that increased visibility, any legal development involving the ADC was always going to generate nationwide debate. For supporters of opposition politics, the immediate concern is whether the ruling could disrupt plans that were already being discussed behind the scenes. If a political party is deregistered, it raises obvious questions about candidates, structures, alliances, and electoral participation. However, it is important to note that legal battles do not always end with a single judgment. The ADC has already rejected the ruling and announced plans to challenge it through legal channels. Party officials reportedly described the judgment as unacceptable and indicated that they would pursue an appeal. This means the matter may still go through additional legal processes before a final outcome is reached. That is why Nigerians should be careful about drawing final conclusions too quickly. In the Nigerian legal system, court decisions can be appealed, and higher courts can either uphold, modify, or overturn earlier judgments. As a result, political observers are watching closely to see what happens next. Another aspect that has attracted attention is the potential impact on former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Reports indicate that the ruling could create a challenge for any political calculations tied to the ADC platform. Because the party has been linked to opposition activities and coalition discussions, any uncertainty surrounding its status naturally affects conversations about future political strategies. This brings us to the part of the story that many viewers are talking about online. Some social media posts have suggested that Peter Obi has somehow won because of this development. However, it is important to approach such claims carefully. At the moment, what is publicly known is that a court has reportedly ordered the deregistration of ADC and several other parties. The court ruling itself is not a declaration of victory for Peter Obi. Rather, different political groups and supporters are interpreting the implications in different ways based on their expectations for future elections. Political analysts often remind us that Nigerian politics is highly dynamic. A development that appears to benefit one politician today can create unexpected opportunities for another politician tomorrow. Alliances change, court decisions are appealed, negotiations continue, and political actors frequently adjust their strategies. That is why many observers are focusing less on personalities and more on the broader implications for the political system. One major question concerns political pluralism and party participation. Nigeria operates a multi-party democracy, and debates about party deregistration have existed for years. Supporters of stricter enforcement argue that inactive parties should not remain on the electoral register indefinitely. Critics, however, often argue that removing parties could reduce political choices available to voters. This debate is not entirely new. Over the years, discussions have repeatedly emerged about whether political parties should be required to demonstrate a minimum level of electoral success in order to maintain registration. Supporters say such rules help reduce the number of dormant parties. Opponents argue that smaller parties can still play important democratic roles even when they are not winning major elections. The current case appears to have revived those arguments once again. Interestingly, earlier in the legal process, INEC reportedly opposed attempts to compel the deregistration of ADC, arguing that constitutional and legal requirements needed to be properly established before such action could be taken. That position became part of the wider legal discussion leading up to the judgment. This is one reason many legal experts expect further arguments and possible appeals in the coming weeks. Another issue worth mentioning is the timing. Nigeria is gradually moving closer to another election cycle, and political calculations are already underway across various camps. Every court decision, every alliance discussion, and every major political movement is being viewed through the lens of future elections. For opposition groups, the challenge is maintaining unity while navigating legal and political obstacles. For the ruling establishment, the challenge is convincing voters that its policies and performance deserve continued support. For ordinary Nigerians, the main concern remains governance, economic opportunities, security, infrastructure, and improving daily living conditions. That is why many citizens are watching political developments closely, but also asking a practical question: how will all of this affect the average Nigerian? The answer may depend on what happens next. If appeals are filed and the judgment is reviewed by higher courts, the political picture could change significantly. If the ruling stands, affected parties may need to rethink their future strategies. If negotiations and alliances continue, entirely new political arrangements could emerge. What seems certain is that the story is far from over. The coming days and weeks could bring fresh court filings, official responses from INEC, reactions from political stakeholders, and new developments that reshape the conversation once again. As always, it is important to follow verified information rather than relying solely on rumors circulating on social media. Political stories often evolve quickly, and early interpretations are not always accurate. Before we wrap up, don't forget to like this video if you found it informative, subscribe for more Nigerian political updates, and share this discussion with friends and family. Most importantly, head to the comment section and tell us what you think. Do you believe the court's decision will stand after appeal? Do you think this changes the political calculations for major opposition figures, or do you expect new alliances to emerge regardless of the outcome? Whatever happens next, one thing is clear. This development has added a new chapter to Nigeria's evolving political story, and millions of Nigerians will be watching closely to see what comes next.